Hallo und herzlich willkommen zurück zu einer weiteren Folge Fate Stay Night Remastered. Und ja, wir sind ja gerade immer noch mitten im Kampf oder am Ende des Kampfes, je nachdem wie es ist, zwischen Saber und Ryder. Und Saber hat gerade ihren Noble Phantasm ausgepackt und damit einen Lichtstrahl erzeugt, welcher mal einfach mal sogar den Himmel gespalten hat. Ja, silence falls over the rooftop. The wind has died down, and not so much as a breeze whispers across the rooftop. I stand, dazed, in place. I can't approach Saber. I'm still too confused to act, or maybe I'm just captivated by her sword. My mind is racing, and I can't seem to think of much that makes sense. Why does she have that sword? That golden sword belongs to a famous, knightly king. Everyone knows who. As I try to figure out how she came to have something like that, I realize my mind is doing everything it can to deny the simplest of the possible answers. I don't need to be making all these assumptions. That sword has always been hers. Das Schwert war schon immer das ihre. And that's why her true name is so easy to figure out. The owner of that sacred sword can have only one name. Sarah remains motionless, where she stands. I should approach her, but my body won't listen. I've been told so many times that Saber is a heroic spirit. But now that I've seen for myself that she is indeed a great hero of the past, I hesitate to even get closer to her. I hear a shriek. Something is burning in the shadows. I turn to look. I see a burning book slowly dissolving into a pile of ash and... I see Shinji cringing as he watches the burned book. Shinji. He must have realized how much trouble he is in now that Ryder has been defeated. Shinji turns and sprints towards the exit from the rooftop. Hey! He leaps through the door to the stairway. Wait, Shinji. I can't let him get away again. The moment I turn to pursue Shinji, just out of the corner of my eye, I see Saber collapse. My mind stops. Shinji is fleeing and Saber has fallen to the ground. I should... Das ist theoretisch wieder, man könnte sagen, die dumme Entscheidung, die ich jetzt mache. Aber nichtsdestotrotz, I rush to Saber. I can't leave Saber alone. Ryder's gone and the book that acted as Shinji's command spell has burned to ash. Shinji doesn't have a servant anymore and he has lost his command spells. The contest is good as over. Saber is my priority now. Saber! I rush to her. She's not holding the golden sword anymore. It has disappeared and now there's just Saber lying on the ground. Saber is in bad shape. Beads of sweat trickle down her brow, and her breath is shallow, labored. She looks like she has got a fever. No way. Hey, Saber, what's going on? I call out to Saber nervously, but she doesn't respond. She is out cold. Saber? I touch her forehead. It's hot. I jerk my hand away. It is unnaturally hot. She's got to be running a fever of over 40 degrees. Naja, nach der Aktion ist das nicht so ganz erstaunlich. Saber, hey, pull yourself together. Ups, sorry, da bin ich mit dem Fuß unten an mein Mikro gekommen. I call out to her, but her only response is shallow. Anguished breathing. I don't know what the hell is going on. I don't know what to do, but I can't just stand around. I'm going to take you home. I will deal with any complaints later. I lift Saber up. She is so light. I knew that, of course, but now she seems even lighter. No more than that, she is warm. That means she is still alive. Saber is still the person I've known all this time. I'm pissed with myself for even hesitating. Damn, what does it matter if she's a hero? No matter who Saber is, she's here and she's still warm. Das ist auch irgendwie... das ist, ich weiß nicht, unglücklich formuliert. Egal. How much of an idiot was I for putting up this wall between us before? We're going home quick. Just hold still, Saber. I start running, Saber in my arms. There's no sense of triumph from this victory. All I feel is Saber in my arms, barely breathing. Thanks for taking a look. I wouldn't have been able to treat Saber.
まあ、鎧を脱がせて楽にさせただけだから、お礼を言われるほどじゃないわ。セイバーの体も良くならないし、私は何もしてないもの。
But still, I'm glad Tosaka was here. The moment I arrived home carrying Saber, Tosaka understood what was going on. It has been an hour. She tried telling Saber what she was going to do, then took her armor off.
それで何があったの？シンジを探しに行って帰ってきたと思ったらセイバーがあれでしょ？一波乱あったのはわかるけど説明してくれないかしら？
I don't know how to explain. Saber's noble phantasm. I shouldn't disclose her true name. I can't decide on my own to reveal that. Ryder's been defeated. Shinji lost his command space and dropped out, but Saber used her noble phantasm and collapsed right after.
セイバーの宝具ね。まあ追求するのは勘弁してあげるわ。今のあなたたちはそれどころじゃないものね。
Why? What do you mean the least of my concerns?
言葉通りの意味よ。あなただってうすうすは気づいているんでしょ。このままじゃセイバーが消えるってことぐらい。
What? She says it so calmly. Tosaka just casually brings up the one thing I've been trying so hard to avoid. Disappear? You're saying Saber's going to disappear?
当然でしょ。セイバーの魔力はほとんど空っぽなのよ。セイバーの宝具がどんなものだったかは知らないけど、よっぽど魔力を使うものだったんでしょうね。
Yup.
セイバーは自分の中の魔力をほぼ消費してしまった。今彼女が苦しんでいるのはね、消えようとしている自分を必死に留めているからよ。
She's going to disappear because she doesn't have magical energy? So you're saying that Saber's going to disappear even though she's not hurt?
ええ。サーバントにとっては外的ダメージより魔力切れの方が深刻な問題よ。霊体であるサーバントに肉体を与えているのは魔力だもの。それがなくなれば消えるしかない。もっともそんなことにならないようにマスターはサーバントに魔力を送るんだけど、あなたはそれができないでしょ。だからセイバーは自分の魔力だけで戦うしかない。切れたらそれまでよ。こんなこと一番初めに説明したでしょ。
That is definitely what Saber said. She was fine before, and Saber said she could recover and if she
それは
slept.
セイバーの魔力量が桁外れだったからよ。そうね。確かにセイバーの魔力はまだ残ってる。彼女ならまだ消えずに肉体を保つぐらいの魔力は回復できるとは思う。けど結局はそこ止まりよ。セイバーはずっと今の状態で戦うことになる。宝具を使うなんてもってのほか。次に宝具を使えばセイバーは間違いなく消え去るでしょうね。
Wow, scheiße. She will disappear if she uses her noble phantasm? Well, I wouldn't want Saber fighting like this at all. I don't ever want to see Saber on her knees, in that kind of pain again.
理解できた？結局セイバーを以前の状態に戻す方法は2つだけよ。マスターがサーバントに魔力を提供するか、サーバントが自分で魔力を補充するか。
If someone collecting it themselves, that would mean killing innocent people like Ryder. That's impossible. Sarah would never do that. She said herself that she would never do such a thing.
でしょうね。一般人を犠牲にするぐらいならセイバーは潔く消えるでしょう。なら方法は一つだけよ。セイバーを消したくないのならあなたが魔力を提供するしかないわ。
If I could, I would have done that a long time ago. But I don't know how to give her magical energy. I can't do everything you can.
まあね。 共有の魔術を教えてあげても間に合わない。シロは魔術師に向いてないから覚えるのに1年ぐらいかかるだろうし、覚えたところで使えないわ。まあ召喚時にセイバーとパスは通っているはずだから、まだ他に方法があるかもしれないけど。いい？セイバーを助けたいのなら彼女自身に人を吸わせて魂を食べさせるしかない。それはあなたにも分かってると思うけど。
That is the most realistic method, but it's...
もちろんセイバーは嫌がるでしょ。けど放っておけば遅かれ早かれセイバーは消えて、あなたは他のマスターから狙われることになる。
Saber's going to disappear? I can't even consider that. I still remember the warmth of her body when I was carrying her.
なら答えは一つよ。レイジを使いなさい、エミ役。それで最悪の事態は避けられる。
What she's trying to say is, I need to order Saber to kill innocent people. I can't say anything. I resent what Tosaka is saying, but there's a part of me that has to admit it. That has to admit it could be one of our options.
決断はあなたに任せるわ。セイバーは眠らせておけば落ち着くだろうけど、それでも限界は近いでしょうね。
Tosaka leaves the living room. I can't even lift my head. All I can do is listen to the sound of her footsteps, receding down the hall. Receding, wahrscheinlich receding. Save the game? Yes. Altria. That's the name she was given when she celebrated her coming of age. It was wartime. It began with the collapse of an empire. An empire that had been meant to be eternal was slowly waiting to die amid invasions from all sides. In preparations for the many wars, the empire deprived an island nation of its military. That is how it began. Having lost the empire's protection, her nation had no choice but to become independent, and over time it broke up into smaller nations. The invasions came again and again. Internal conflicts between clans spiraled out of control. Then came a long period of war, which would later come to be known as the Dark Ages. It is during this difficult time that she was born, higher to the throne. A long, tumultuous period of war. The king believed in a mage's prophecy and so eagerly awaited the birth of his worthy successor. But the child born to him was not the child he desired. His child wasn't male. Fated king or not, the child could not assume the throne unless he were a boy. So the girl was entrusted to the king's retainer and was raised as a knight. The king was saddened, but the mage delighted. One's sex has nothing to do with one's worthiness to become king. More than that, the mage was convinced that the girl's absence from the castle until the day of the prophecy was proof she was the true king. So she grew up under the care of a simple and wise old knight as his adopted child and successor. The old knight did not believe in the mage's prophecy. He simply raised her to be a knight, and hoped for her to continue growing because he felt something from her that reminded him very much of his own lord. But even without the knight's encouragement or intervention, the girl trained every day to become stronger than anyone else. If an ailing country, headed toward its own demise, can only be saved by a king, the girl had sworn to wield her sword for that reason, and that reason alone, without anyone ever needing to tell her to do so. And then the prophesied day arrived. Knights and lords from around the nation gathered in hopes of being chosen to be king. If this was to be a contest to determine the best possible king, all assumed the selection would be made in a mounted just. Instead, all that waited at the site of selection was a naked blade thrust into a stone. Oh. On the hilt of the sword, a glittering golden inscription read, "Whoever pulls this sword from the stone is the rightful king of England." Many knights took their turn trying to draw the sword from the stone, but none were able to draw the sword from the stone. So the knights decided to compete in a joust, as they had originally expected on arriving. The girl was not yet a knight, and so could not participate in the joust. She approached the stone of selection, which sat largely abandoned, its appeal having long since faded, and reached for the sword's hilt. She did not hesitate.
いやいや、それを手に取る前にきちんと考えた方がいい。
She turned around, and before her stood the most feared mage in the nation. He gave his warning. Once she takes hold of that sword, she will cease to be human. She responded only with a nod. To be king is to no longer be human. She has been reserved to this from the moment she was born. To be king is to kill more than anyone, in protection of everyone. The young girl thought of this every night, and lay in bed, shivering at the implications until morning. Not a day went by that she was not afraid, but in that moment she pledged that her days of fear were at an end. She drew the sword effortlessly from the stone, and bright light engulfed the whole of the site of selection. And in that instant she ceased to be human. A king's sex does not matter. So long as they carry out the function of a king, none would care about a king's appearance, or even bother to pay attention to such a thing. And even if someone noticed the king was a woman, it would not matter, so long as she was a good king. The sword's magical energy must have halted her growth. While many knights found it eerie and feared her, most saw the Lord's immortality as a divine gift. And so, the legendary, celebrated age of the king began. The new king, in battle, was seen as something of a god of war. The king always led from the front. No enemies could stand in her way. Altria, the god of battle. Hailed as a dragon incarnate, she knew no defeat. In 10 years, she fought 12 battles and never once lost. In those days, her chief duty as king was on the battlefield. Not once did she turn back, not once was she disgraced. She was raised to kingship and fulfilled her obligations without hesitation. Oh, dieses Bild. Oh. Dieses Bild finde ich so genial. Maybe that's why I had a vision of her. Her soul must still be on the battlefield. It's not yet dawn. She stands under the indigo sky and lets the wind whip at her as she stares off into the distance. The sky is high and clouds slide by overhead. Out in the clear air, sword in hand, she gazes at the great army she is about to confront. The image of her won't leave me. It has burned into my mind. She and her sword are one. The sword from the stone which chose the king. The brilliance of the sword that determined her fate is also her brilliance. But I tilt my head in wonder at this dream. That sword isn't the one she holds. Yep. It is similar but different. The sword she holds now isn't the one she used last night. But if that's the case, what happened to that incredible sword? Es gab 2 Schwerter. Einer im Stein und ein Schwert. Und ein Schwert wurde von der Göttin des ja, ich glaube, man kann sie Göttin des Sees geben. Die Dame im See hieß die, glaube ich. Dinger, ja. The golden sword of a third victory. User Sable. A sacred sword that represents King Arthur. England's King of Knights. Caliburn symbolizes the king whom the mage Merlin led to pull the sword from the stone of appointment. It is distinct from the sacred sword Excalibur bestowed by the Fairy of the Lake. Okay, Fairy of the Lake. And its characteristic as a noble phantasm differs somewhat. However, Saber seems to be profoundly attached to this sword. Since swords are a symbol of power, the swords of kings have always been relegated to an ornate ceremonial role. This marks the largest difference between Excalibur and Caliburn. In exchange for its regal beauty, it is nowhere near as effective of a weapon as Excalibur. According to legend, Caliburn broke when King Arthur fought in a battle that violated the principles of chivalry. True Name Altria. Und hier haben wir die Legende von King Arthur. Das gehe ich jetzt mal nicht komplett durch. Vielleicht beim nächsten Mal oder ein anderes Mal, weil die Story ist schon sehr cool, aber jetzt gerade Hitbox finde ich auch geil. So. Irgendwas Interesse? So, when I wake from my dream, I find myself in my own room. It's bright outside. I must have come back to my room last night, unable to make a decision, then fallen asleep while I was watching over Saber. That was a dream. It was a strange dream. What I saw, I had no way of knowing any of that, and that wasn't the Saber I know. Is it even possible for me to dream of such a thing? But that sword was definitely different from the one Saber had. I racked my brain. Saber's identity had been unclear, and honestly, I still can't get my head around who she really is. Saber is Saber. I can't change the way I act around her, and I don't think Saber would want that in any case. But she looked incredible. She looked really cool with that sword last night, but she looked good with the sword in my dreams too. It would be fair to say I was in awe. The sword last night and the sword from my dream seemed to have left one hell of an impression on me. I guess I've got a thing for swords. I thought Lancer Spear was beautiful when I saw it too, but my passion for swords is on a whole other level. It would appear I have a thing for swords. Well, that's not really anything new. I drew in a deep breath and reached up, finding my forehead dripping with sweat. It's sure is hot here. I wipe the sweat from my forehead. It is winter, but my body feels flushed. I don't know why, but it feels like my blood is getting hotter, and it is unsettling. I wonder why. Ever since I saw Saber's sword eye, my whole body has been hot for some reason. My left hand, the one with my command spells, feels like it's holding a hand warmer. It is the same sensation when I felt when Tosaga made me swallow a javel, like there's something stirring in me, or making me want to run. I take a deep breath, trying to calm myself. Saber's probably still asleep. She still hasn't woken up, but it looks like she is stabilizing. Her breathing is even, and that pained look she had last night has smoothed over. Saber is sleeping peacefully. It is a morning like any other. Maybe if I let her sleep, Saber will recover. That way, I wouldn't have to make her kill anyone. Then she could stay with me, just like she has been. How could I be so selfish? I slam my fist into the wall. My own weakness nauseates me. It's my fault Saber turned out this way. What the hell am I going to do? I stand up without another sound. I don't know when Saber's going to wake up, but I have to make a decision before she does. Tosaka is not up yet. The house is completely dead, and the corridor feels deserted. No, it only feels like that because I'm so down. I can't decide what to do, so the whole world feels hazy, and I'm just wandering in that grayness. Huh? I hear something cutting through the air. That is again. It's coming from the yard, but that is... I know that sound. Well, I don't feel like making breakfast, so I will go take a walk and check out. It's colder than usual. Must be really cold for me to feel it, feverish as I am. It looks like it might even snow. It's coming from the shed. The sound of something slicing through the air reaches me at irregular intervals. As I cross the yard, my breath misses air. I find him in front of the sheet. Given how unsurprised I am to find him, I guess I figured he would be here. He must have been shooting his arrows. The moment Archer sees me, he lowers his bow and displeasure. That's dangerous. Don't shoot arrows in my house. What were you going to do if you hit something?
どうするつもりもない。もとより矢など使っていないのだ。いていないものが当たる道理はなかろう。
He doesn't have to tell me that. So the sound was just his bow itself. For some reason, Archer was just plucking his bowstring, not firing arrows. That is a good-looking bow. Didn't want to say as much earlier, but I guess you are a bona fide archer.
さて、私はお前が知っている弓使いとは違うからな。弓道など聞かれても答えられんぞ。
Yep.
お前たちの弓は己に当てる射であり、私のは敵に当てる矢だ。お前の言うアーチャーというのは礼節を重んじる者のことだろう。
His lip curls slightly. I still can't stand this guy. I never thought to ask you about Archer in the first place. I was just wondering what you were doing.
見ての通り、調子を測っているのだが。セイバーにつけられた傷も癒えた。いつまでも見張り役というわけにもいくまい。
I see. So his wounds have healed. That means Tosaka will get back into the fight. I turn on my heel. If Tosaka and Archer are going to rejoin the battle, I need to make a decision too. I need to go somewhere I can think alone.
斬新という言葉があるな。
Huh?
ことを済ませた後に保つ間のことだ。私の弓術とお前の弓道で唯一共通しているものがそれだと思うのだが。
What? I didn't ask for a lecture on the 8 stages of shooting.
まあ聞け。矢を放った後、体は自然と場に止まるという。それを斬新というそうだな。
Yes, there are 8 movements in Kyoto called the Zasho Hasetsu, which are the 8 principles of shooting. The final step, Zanshin, is what follows after releasing your arrow. Yeah, what about it?
心構えの話だ。斬新とは己の行為。放った矢が的中するかを確かめるものではない。矢とは放つ前にすでに的中しているものだ。射手は自らのイメージ通りに指を離す。ならば当たるか当たらぬかなど確認する必要はない。 射の前に当たらぬと思えば当たらぬし、当たると思えば当たっているのだから。
That is absurd. No matter how much you might think a shot will hit, some shots won't. If all they had to do is think it will hit, everyone would hit every shot every time.
そうかな。少なくともお前は100発100中だろ。
Well, he catches me off guard there. I mean, he is right, but...
まあ、そんな話はどうでもいい。言いたいことは一つだけだ。斬新とは矢が当たるかどうかを見極めるものではない。放った矢がどのような結果になるかなど分かりきったことだからな。ならば斬新とはその結果を受け入れるための心構えではなかったか。
I know that. You're telling me I need to follow through to the very end.
そういうことだ。セイバーのことは聞いた。彼女がこのような状態になるのは初めから分かっていたことだろう。まあ、それはもう決まっていたことだ。ならば
All that is left to accept the result. He's telling me that no matter what I decide, no matter what it does to Saber, all I can do is see it through. I turn my back to Archer. This time I'm going to be the one to leave Archer hanging.
あ、それともう一つ気がついていないようだから教えておこう。
His voice comes from behind me.
セイバーはな、宝具を使えば自分が消えると分かっていたはずだ。彼女はおそらく最後まで宝具を使う気はなかったのだろう。
This time I hear nothing of his usual sarcasm.
にもかかわらず宝具を使った理由は一つ。セイバーは自身が消えることよりお前を守ることを選んだのだ。それを決して忘れるな。
For once, his voice is completely sincere. He is only telling the truth here. Und ich würde sagen, an dem Punkt beende ich dann jetzt auch hier die Folge. Okay. An dem Punkt beende ich jetzt hier die Folge. Vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen und bis zum nächsten Mal. Ciao.